Hi, welcome to the day with an interesting topic. Is India on the right track of education? India formulated a policy, national policy on education that covers elementary education till college in both rural and urban India since 1968. Further, there were also several policies on right to education, program for girls, development of secondary education, higher education, education for disabled, and several policies like that were introduced with a good intention of plummeting the education level in India. We as a group were interested in investigating if there was any impact at all of all these policies on Indian education. Also, we wanted to check if the national and the state ruling party were aligned in implementation of these policy implementations and whether they had any effect at all on this. In detail, we also wanted to figure out the parameters that each state should concentrate for the areas of improvement. With no further delay, let's jump on to the topic. So, how did we go about it? We calculated EDI, the Education Development Index, based on four parameters, which is the Accessibility Index, Infrastructure Index, Teacher Index, and Outcome Index. We derived certain external data from Wikipedia. The data that we extracted from Wikipedia were the ruling party at the state level and also at the national level at each year, which was considered for the study. Accessibility index talks about the number of schools available for the population in that area, how accessible are the schools. Infrastructure talks about the facilities like girls toilet, kitchen shed, drinking water facilities, school classroom ratio, etc. Teaching index talks about the female teachers, the teachers who have PG and a greater qualification, pupil teacher ratio. And the outcome index talks about the gross enrollment at the primary and upper primary level, the girls to boys enrollment ratio, with the inclusiveness of SC and ST in the enrollment index, whether there was any dropout and things like that. While we calculated the EDI, this is the dashboard that we show here, which talks about two things. One is the Education Development Index at each state level, and also the alignment of this state with the center. So let me filter out by the year. In the year 2013 to 14, if you look at it, yeah, the greener portions here show that the Education Development Index is fairly good at these states when compared to the rest of the states, and the red portion talks about they're trailing behind the race and they really need to develop. Overall, you can see the eastern part of India needs a lot of development in the Education Development Index. The purple circle, do you notice this purple circles and the blue circles? It talks about, the purple one talks about the alignment with center and the blue one talks about non-alignment with the center. If you see, the greener areas shows the blue circles, if you see, and there are certain green portions which talks about they are already aligned with the center. Yeah, so even the red states, the states that show red also show blue as well as the purple circles, which means the EDI is not dependent on alignment with the center. Coming back to the indices, this is the interesting story we wanted to tell you. Year on year, how have they performed on each of these parameters, the accessibility, infrastructure, teaching quality, and the outcome. So you can see each state. So if you look at the green colored states, those are performing better when compared to the orange colored states, right? So these one in gray are in the mediocre level. Yeah, so if you look into the orange states here, the accessibility has to be improved in these states. And look at the teaching index. Overall, the teaching index of the country has to be definitely improved. And in infra, the west part is doing better when compared to the eastern part of the country. And the outcome index, you could see overall, you can see more grays than the green and orange. So this gives a fair idea of each state, what is their actual index at each parameter level and their ranking, and how much can they improve. And as a summary, we also have given you an interesting dashboard where you can see the top 10 states in the overall literacy. Uh, Shows you a number that is still only greater than 60 percentage. Yeah, and which does it tell you that it also speaks about the rest of the states in India are less than 60% literacy. And look at the female literacy as well. Still, Kerala is topping in the top, and the rest of the states are still trailing below the 60 percentage mark, which is really an area of concern. And look at the EDIs here. The orange colored bars are the EDIs. Year on year, if you check, the EDI has not seen significant improvements on the top 10 states. And are we really doing anything at all about improving the education development index is definitely a question that we would want to raise, and it's really surprising to see the data. Coming to my thank you slide. Yes, we talk about China, who's a neighboring country who spends 20 percentage of their GDP on education, while we, India, who's also a fastest growing economy, spend only 4% of GDP on education. So, this results in low quality education, which will cripple India's growth. Um, and we are targeting to be the emerging workforce in the 21st century economy. And traditionally our efforts around education have focused on enrollment and not on real child's learning. It is hardly surprising then that despite 97% enrollment in class 1, only 35% reach class 12 and less than 20% enroll into higher education. So what do we need? A higher quality education system is definitely a prerequisite for a country to achieve global excellence. For addressing India's education crisis, we require resolute political leadership with a clear vision for education that is able to unite the forces of government, corporate houses, and civil society organizations towards building the nation of our dreams. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.